Welcome back. This is Retirement News Online. You can find us at retirementnewsonline.com. Well, needless to say, this has been a tumultuous year for federal employees as the current administration is actively trying to reduce the federal workforce. We're here with Steve Caruso, president and founder of Laurel Wealth Solutions. Steve is an expert in federal benefits and has been helping federal employees navigate the retirement process for almost 3 decades. Now, if you are a federal employee, you may have been hearing a lot of acronyms lately like DRP, Riff, DSR, VERA, and VISA. Now, Steve is here to make sense of some of these terms, and let's start with my favorite one, DRP. What is it, what does it mean, and how does it affect people?
The DRP is the Deferred Resignation Program, and what that is it's a type of voluntary exit from federal service. It's not necessarily a retirement program because it's being offered to employees across different ages, so you're voluntarily choosing to leave federal service either by resigning or retiring. The great thing about the DRP is that it continues to pay you to not work. So you're put on paid administrative leave for a period of months. The initial offer was through September 30th, but it's been offered a few times. And it seems to be a new tool that the government is going to use, or at least this administration plans on using, because it's been offered already multiple times. And I would expect over the next 3 years for it to continue to be offered.
What happens to like the benefits and security clearances with the DRP?
Well, with the security clearances, that's an area that a lot of people are concerned about. Obviously, you're leaving federal service, but that security clearance can get transferred to another agency provided you get picked up by another agency within 24 months. So when you accept the DRP, if you are below retirement age, if you don't have 5 years of federal service, then you're not going to get any kind of pension. You cannot continue your federal benefits if you're below the requirements to retire. But if you've reached your retirement age and you have enough years to qualify for retirement, your benefits start immediately. And that's a pretty significant thing because sometimes you may have been able to retire, but you may not have been able to retire fully. So by taking the DRP, now you can retire fully, get your pension, keep your benefits. And oh, by the way, you can still look for work. You're not precluded from looking for work while you're on administrative leave. So you might even line up your next job.
What happens to the benefits at the end of DRP if the federal employee isn't qualified? What happens to them then?
So the benefits go away. You can continue your health insurance, but remember the government, while you're working, is subsidizing roughly 70% of your health insurance. So you will have access to a temporary continuation, and you could continue it for about 18 months, but you're going to be paying a heck of a lot more. The life insurance, or the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, sometimes referred to as FEGLI, that would be able to be continued again, but that would be an out-of-pocket cost to you. You cannot continue your flexible spending accounts. You can't continue the dental and vision plan either. So those stop when your pay stops.
So Steve, is there a way to qualify to retire if you aren't at full retirement age?
Sure, yeah, that's where some of those acronyms come in, Scott. One of them being VERA, which is the Voluntary Early Retirement Authority. And so that's an authority that the agency has to basically offer you the ability to retire fully, even though you haven't reached your retirement age. Now, there's 2 ways you can qualify for this. There's being age 50 with 20 years of service, or being any age with 25 years of service. This is a huge advantage because let's just give the example of a 48-year-old. You started with the government right after college. You've worked your 25 years. Now you're eligible to retire, collect a pension immediately. And oh, by the way, when you get to your minimum retirement age, which would be 57 in that case, you'll also get a special supplement. So you'll get an extra payment from 57 to 62. Even though you didn't reach 30 years, you're able to now leave federal service and collect your pension, and you're 48. So you still have plenty more years to work if you wanted to. If you're coupling that with DRP, which most of these DRP or deferred resignation programs are allowing the younger folks to take Vera that qualify. Well, now you're able to go and get paid administrative leave, look for work, potentially have a new job lined up in the private sector, and collect a pension. So that could be a huge windfall of money right when you might need it most, because I'm using a 48-year-old, that's how old I am, and I know I have a daughter in college, so I'm assuming there's a lot of other 48-year-olds that are in the same kind of boat. And so that could be a pretty significant advantage.
So we talked about Vera. So VSIP, how does this play into all this? How are they different?
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion about these different terms, right? So the VSIP is a voluntary separation incentive payment. What that is a one-time payment. A lot of times it's offered in conjunction with Vera, but it could also be just offered without Vera as well. It's another type of way to kind of entice you to get your foot out the door. And so a lot of agencies right now are offering a VSIP with the Vera. Usually the payment can be anywhere up to $25,000 for most agencies. Certain agencies like the Defense Department can offer a little bit more.
So now Riff and DSR, how are they different? What are they?
So let me start with kind of how they're different, right? So
okay.
Think of Riff as the event, right? And then DSR is a way to kind of navigate successfully through that event. And so what the Riff is a reduction in force. That's usually being dictated from some strategic goal, like the agency wants to downsize, reduce headcount, what have you. What the DSR does is, rather than give you a severance payment, it allows you to retire. And so it's the kind of the cousin of Vera, in that Vera is voluntary, DSR is involuntary, but they meet the same requirements. So you need to be 50 with 20 years of service, or any age with 25 years of service. If you have that, then you can retire immediately. Same thing with the supplement. You'll get the supplement when you reach your minimum retirement age. It's a pretty significant advantage. It's a lot better than getting just a severance payment, because the pension is for the rest of your life.
And you work with a lot of federal law enforcement employees, which seem to have avoided a lot of the downsizing, but we never know what's going to happen, so we have to kind of be prepared. What should they be doing, even though they aren't affected at the moment? What should they be thinking about? Well,
so federal employees that are law enforcement officers, that's an area right now where a lot of them are exempt from taking the DRP. So they can't get the deferred resignation program. And in some cases, I work, as you mentioned, with a lot of law enforcement. Certain agencies like immigration, right? Those agents are being offered actually a retention bonus. So now the retention bonus is not offered to everyone. If you have a role that the government deems, basically irreplaceable, they're offering you that retention bonus. It can be about 25% of your salary. Now that doesn't go towards your pension calculation. So your pension is still based on your high 3, which is your regular pay and your locality pay. But it is a nice little add-on to your paycheck. And if you are getting that extra 25% and you haven't been, say, maxing out your Roth TSP, or you have some credit card debt still, you can use that extra money to pay that down, so it can help you achieve your own strategic objectives while helping the government achieve theirs.
Every time I talk with you, Steve, I get the impression that federal employees need to work with an expert. I mean, because it sounds so complex. That seems like that should be the first step if you're getting closer to retirement or whatever. What's that timeline? When should people start thinking about working with somebody like you?
So usually when you're within 5 years of retirement, that's when you want to start to kind of shift your mindset from retirement accumulation to distribution planning. And it's a completely different skill set. So, I don't know how much hiking you do, but you're out in Arizona, so I would assume a fair amount. If you train to hike up a mountain, that's great, and you might get to the top of that mountain, but sometimes it's a lot more treacherous to come down.
Right.
And so it's a completely different skill set navigating how you're going to distribute your assets in retirement compared to planning for retirement. And so as you get into that kind of red zone, what you want to avoid is the water cooler expert, because that water cooler expert's going to tell you, especially if you're like a federal employee, oh, you're now 2 years out from retirement, move everything to the G fund. Right. Well, what are they basing that on? That's not necessarily the right advice. You want to look at the priority or purpose of your money and what the timing of when you're going to spend it, and you want to allocate your assets accordingly. Going overly conservative, what you're doing is, yes, you're eliminating market risk by doing that, but you're adding this other risk, which is inflation risk, which means your probability of running out of money just went up dramatically. And so working with an expert who's familiar with those things, not only does it potentially save you a lot in taxes, right down the road, but it also could provide you a much better lifestyle and a lot more peace of mind, which is why we save money in the first place, right? Is to have the peace of mind, all right, I'm not going to be running out of money. Yeah. And so to sleep well at night, essentially.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like a good way to lose money safely, or
exactly.
lose buying power. My guest has been Steve Caruso. He's the president and founder of Laurel Wealth Solutions and obviously an expert in federal employee benefits. Thank you for watching Retirement News Online.